Hi, my name is Chelsea Peace, and I'm here with Stacy Geiger of Geiger Law. And we want to talk to you a little bit about kind of how this dynamic of our relationship coming together helped both of us understand our purpose, our passion, and how we help women navigate difficult seasons of our lives. So, Stacy, hi.
Huh?
Thank you for meeting with me today.
Sometimes, but it's okay.
Sometimes men.
Sometimes men.
I think what we both agreed on today is like it's passion for us when it comes to women
Yes.
stepping into their full authenticity and really taking care of their kids and putting them first.
Absolutely.
Any parent who's putting their kids first. And divorce can always be a difficult process for everybody involved. Um, Before we get started, I kind of want to explain because I was a client of yours and it was something that really helped me change my life, helped me to come to better understand the seasons of our lives and how changing from one to the other isn't always easy. Um, and sometimes we find ourselves in those situations because been giving our power away. And for me specifically, whenever I first met you, I was going through a really tough time in my life. I thought that this person was the best person to help me raise my kids. And I was giving him all of the power when it came to my self worth, to my ability to be able to step into being a single parent. I thought that I wasn't able to do it. And then I gave my power to you. Okay, so it's a little vulnerable. I'm going to hold back my tears today. Um, but I gave my power to you in a way that I thought you were here to help me navigate this and apply boundaries around him while we're going through the legal process. So I want to like kind of just bring a couple things to light and ask you, how do you typically see this play out in your divorce scenarios? So I feel like for me, when everything first started, I had high hopes. I was like, this is going to be fine. We can come to a mutual agreement. I think I remember telling you, like, this is going to be amicable. Like, what did you say?
Everybody says that. Everyone in the beginning, this is going to be amicable because you didn't get married because this was a bad person. Everybody gets married thinking this is the greatest person ever. And you completely, for the most part, when you get married, you give yourself to the other person and ideally in reverse, right?
Hmm.
So you don't wind up at a divorce over, it's not a shock. It's usually over time and you realize, okay, that person's not giving me the same thing.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, most people turn back and say, we started well, surely we can end well.
Yeah.
And they're going to understand me and I understand them. And we both want what's best for their kids, wink, wink.
Hmm.
But they don't. It's not. I would say I would love if everybody who came in and said, this is an amicable divorce. And I tell people all the time, these are my favorite because there are a handful of couples that genuinely can work it out.
Yeah.
But and for another day, but there are definitely pitfalls because they're so open to, oh, we're going to be able to do this down the road. And no matter how many times I say, no, we should have a default clause when you stop being friends. They don't. But back to your situation. e- Yes, you thought it would be amicable, and we tried.
We tried.
did.
We tried. And I think what I recognize about myself in the situation is I was so hopeful for that amicable solution. And I kept thinking, like, he can grow, he can get better. This is going to be fine. The kids are most important, right? And when it wasn't happening, and every time I was trying, I was bending, I was folding, we'll do this. I'll sacrifice this. I'll do that. Um, I was then when I kept getting punished for it in the experience, like I feel like I was being rage baited into another like be submissive in this situation. I was reaching out to you to say like, this is what he's doing. This is what he's doing. And I was looking for you to help me like apply a boundary or something. Like, so how often do you find people who are in toxic divorce situations looking to you to help to solve that
Every single
communication?
time. Every single one, because they're not where you've gotten yet, right? And even you've called it's different seasons. You turn into a different person over time, and it wasn't your divorce was not overnight. I mean, time in your situation, and sometimes in a lot of them, work in your favor
Hmm.
because you do have time to recognize who this person is. And I'm sure we said it a bunch of times, but you cannot turn somebody into a better person. You cannot change the other person. If you hadn't done it in a 3-year marriage, in a 5-year marriage, in a 10, 15-year marriage, you're certainly not going to do it in a divorce.
Yeah.
You're not going to turn, and we'll use just, dad for now, just because that's what we're
Yes.
saying.
Yes.
But you can't turn a bad dad into a good dad, no matter what you do.
Hmm.
Um, but I think what you can share with people is if you can start taking the steps that you took halfway through, a quarter of the way through, even three-quarters of the way through, you can put yourself in a better position.
Yeah.
Um, just to even recognize these things. And one of the things that you did that I tell everybody to do is keep notes,
Mhm.
because you could turn back and read them and say, no, on the days where you're like, he isn't trying, or, well, no, he's not, but let's go back 4 months when you thought he was, or,
Yeah.
you know, it, it- and it turns, you're making notes yourself to say, I asked him to do this. I asked him to take the kids, or
Yeah.
I offered, but he never
Yeah,
came to you.
it really helped me. It was almost like a journaling process. Like, I remember it was the day I called you about a concert, and you were listening, and it was like I was listening like, "What can we do? How can we stop this?" And you were just like, "Okay, I'm gonna type an email." And it clicked for me like, "Oh, I can't really do anything. I can just document it." And so when I started documenting it, it helped me disconnect myself from it and say like, "That's not a me problem." And I got to focus on what was important to me, like my family, my job, my body, my new life. Because one of my favorite things that you probably hear a lot is the person you marry is not the person you divorce. And you realize that at some point, but you have to choose to be a different person through your own divorce, right? And I think that's what I was able to find is that at the beginning of my divorce, I was still mourning being his wife. I was grieving what we had, and I was really trying to understand, like, why did this happen? What is going on? Like, what's going to happen? I'm worried about everything. But I made a conscious decision to say, like, this is going to be the best thing that ever happened to me.
And it was. And I think in your situation, you have 100% made your renewal, your
Yeah.
new person amazing. And if everybody could do that, that would be great. But a lot of people do struggle with, and they're sad. And I get that. Like,
Hmm.
this isn't the person I married. Or they'll say, when we first got married, he did all these things. And once in a while, even during the divorce process, that other person will say something or do something. And sadly, I don't mean to be a pessimist, but I'm always be like, we're in the middle of a divorce process. So if something comes in and that person's being really nice, don't assume it's because it's the old person coming in. It
Yeah.
could be, a trick, or unfortunately something negative and if and when it involves kids, that's when it gets especially upsetting, because all of a sudden, "Oh, dad wants to take us to the park all the time." I'm like, "Oh, does he?"
Yeah.
But you wanna accept that. But back to, and I apologize. So,
You're good.
I
Well, I think we're
I
just
go
bouncing off of
way
each
off
other. We're
track.
plowing. Well, you just mentioned something. So, it's pattern recognition, right? I think that's what you were able
Yeah.
to offer me is you see so much of this that I don't see. I think about it like I go to the doctor. I'm getting a surgery, and I'm sitting here going, like, but what if this? But what if that? But what if that? The doctor does this every day. The doctor does this every day. So you see things that I don't see. You know what a judge is going to be looking for in a high conflict custody battle or a divorce hearing and things. And you've seen this play out 1,000 times. And you were just able to help me regulate and say, no, this is not what it is. Chelsea, calm down. So um, what is that something that you do intentionally, or did I just like become your most exhausting client?
Not even a little bit. But we do it all the time, right? So your situation was different because you
Mhm,
have smaller kids, but we see it on total different scales. So, like, somebody who has a 17-year-old, and that's a totally different situation, right? So they're calling with different types of emergencies and panics. And,
mhm.
well, what if, he's 17 or even 16, 15? I can't make him do these things. I don't, you're in a situation where your children were little, and I I want to I want these kids to want to be with their dad.
Mhm.
They're in a different situation. Their panic is totally different. Their panic
Yeah.
is they don't want to see their dad. What do I do? I can't force them to. And so you were not my most exhausting.
Okay. So that's a relief to me.
everybody everybody has a different set of issues, is what I'm trying to say. And everybody sees it as their own personal emergency, and I get it.
Yeah.
Because when your kids are the most important, the tiniest thing is going to set somebody off, and it's my job not and I'm not to be neutral because I obviously am not, but
Right.
to put it in perspective and try and see the bigger picture, right? So, um, with a concert, at the end of the day, I know it's a big deal to you and the kids,
Right.
but now looking back, was it a huge deal? No.
No,
No, but in that moment, it absolutely was.
it was.
Like,
Yeah.
think about so we see this, right? What about a mom who just wants their kid to eat healthy, right? And then dad who really does not care and goes to McDonald's. That, for some parents, is the end all. And you would think that the soapbox could not get bigger
Right.
for this healthy food speech. But at the end of the day, no,
You're stressing yourself out for nothing. You can't control them.
you cannot control them. And each parent to his own, right? I
Mhm.
mean, your your kids are still going to grow up and they're still eating food. There's a difference between, you know, my question to that parent is, are they getting 3 meals?
Yeah.
Does one taste terrible? Probably.
And I think that goes to, like, where we are in our healing journey during this legal process is like, how much are you really focused on the other person's behavior and how much they're hurting you versus I can't control them. What can I control? And how can I just make sure that what I'm providing to my children is healthy, fun, safe? And if something happens on their watch, then I'll just document it and I will make sure that Stacy knows about it, and I will not allow that to disturb my peace.
That is a 7-mile bridge to
It
cross.
is a 7-mile bridge to cross, but this is where it kind of leans into how you helped me find my purpose and my calling and how everything about my life up to this point has really made a lot of sense when I look back on it. So, we talked a lot about seasons and navigating change and things like that. How many of your clients do you find back in your office after the ink is dry or even in a new relationship a few years down the road that are in the same situation they were in with you the first time?
Uh, so on different levels, a good amount.
Okay.
So like we were saying with amicable divorces, right? It's real hard when everybody we're getting along. I'm willing to do this. This is what she wants. This is what he wants. We're going to agree to everything.
Mhm.
And I say, okay, but what about what if we just put X in there? Well, then we're not going to agree. And I don't want to tip the scales.
Uh-huh.
I don't want to upset him. I don't want to upset her. If we put that, then they're not going to agree. And I just want this done and over with. And it doesn't matter how many times I say it, but it's not done and over with, especially when there are kids. And I use this example and it's not the greatest, but we say a lot of amicable dissolutions say, we'll just share holidays. We can do them together. I'm like, oh, that's adorable. Because right now you're getting along and things look super happy. But when your soon to be ex-husband brings in a lovely 23-year-old with the body of a dancer who has almost no interest in your children,
Mhm.
but she is super excited about going to the Taylor Swift concert that evening instead of finishing up a family meal. You don't want them spending every holiday with you anymore.
So now we're spending more money to
And
go back
and
and apply boundaries that we could have applied in the beginning if we knew what the long-term vision of this divorce was going to mean for myself. If I knew what the goals for my children and I were 5, 10 years from now. Because I think you told me about a crystal ball theory. Like, I'd be like, "What if this? What if that?" And you're like, "Yeah, we can't do anything about that." But you were able to help me understand legal boundaries that you can put in place that helps me to protect my peace. Now that the ink is dry, um, I'm gonna ramble a little bit. I recently found out that 90% of women just that's the only one, I'm not speaking men or women, but 90% of women, are abused after the divorce is final by rage baiting their former spouse into whatever. Um, so that's where I'm asking about the pattern recognition and how often you see them back because you've got to understand that maybe it's working today, Who am I going to be once this is all over? And what do I need to move forward and become the best next version of me? And I'm losing my train of thought.
I'm following. So
Help me.
that's where you did amazing, right?
Okay.
Because you started to reinvent yourself before we were done.
Mm-hmm.
And you got on that diving board and said, everything behind me is gone. I'm jumping in new. And all of this I'm going to take on and I'm going to create a whole new life for me and my kids. And yes, he's still in the picture, but what we're doing is going to be different and it's going to be better. And we're just going to be our best selves. And we're not going to look on the past and focus on what was done wrong or what was said or what
Right.
was hurtful. Unfortunately, whether it be doing what you did and just you really invested time into you, and I remember, and I apologize if
No,
you're not sharing, but
everything
I
is on the
presume
table here.
I
You're
presume
welcome.
you shared this with people. Chelsea had done a lot of research. You read so many books, not just about growing as an adult, but
Hmm.
you did a ton of research on your kids.
Yes.
And you sat at trial and you were
Oh,
able to just reiterate what the books told you, and you knew this is the word for that, and this is what my kids went through, and I'm taking control of that, which is awesome. Are you 1 in 100, maybe 1,000? Yeah.
yeah.
No, most clients don't do that. It would be awesome if they did, but those who don't take that leap and start investing in themselves. And I don't mean, money. I
Right.
mean time and
Time.
energy. Um, you know, and before you go to bed at night, instead of watching an hour, 2 hours of TV, read a self-help book and,
And yeah.
or go online. You don't have to read if you don't like reading. Watch a movie about making yourself better or a documentary, something to help yourself grow. Just like we say, so one of the first things that we do when, high conflict kids are in the middle,
Yeah.
um, I immediately tell people, "Get your kids in some sort of therapy. It can't hurt, right?" I mean, there
Hmm.
what's the worst case scenario is they don't like the therapist and you bail.
And
Uh,
you know what? Therapy was such a game changer for us. And I highly recommend that to anybody going through a difficult change in their life. And it was eye opening to me that for young children, when you go to therapy, it's not like, well, how does that make you feel? It's, hey, let's name this emotion. How does this make you feel? You know, it's okay to say that that makes you feel that way. And if someone diminishes that feeling, then that's not okay. And it helps them to see the dynamic because there's an inner child in all of us. By me taking them to therapy and learning about all the child psychology, I think it really helped to heal my inner child. And so when I speak to people, I can see that little inner child that is scared, that is avoiding themselves, that is hiding in their closet, not afraid, or they're afraid to tell their parent that they did something wrong, or they're afraid to go against the grain. You mentioned some spouses that were like, well, it would upset him. If it's important to you, then it's important and you need to voice it no matter what anybody else's opinion is on it because you're the only person living your life, right?
right.
That's what I took away from this
And with your
experience.
kids, in that situation, that's a great place for your kids to be, especially if they're 6, 5, 10, 15.
Oh man.
They don't want to tell you, I'm upset with you because in in situations where there's a primary, more custodial parent with way more time, if they've already lost the other parent, they're certainly not going to tell their mom,
Oh,
I don't like your new boyfriend or he doesn't pay attention to me or, you know, I would really prefer if you would take me out on a Friday night. They're not going to tell them that.
right.
But they might tell a therapist. It can't hurt. But the
Hmm.
point is that that's a great stepping stone and not to be afraid to do that. You have to change who you are because you're changing in a divorce, no matter what.
Yeah.
That other person, even if, they walk 10 feet behind you, is no longer there. There's nobody behind you.
There's
You're
nobody and they're not coming to
you're it.
save you.
They're
Yes.
not. And if you have a family support system, awesome.
Hmm.
But if you don't, or that's not your thing, you don't want to sit and tell your friends or you need to do it by yourself, then you need to do it. But you need some sort of platform to start. And that would make things a lot easier because a lot of these people who come back, a lot of our clients who come back, they've done it again. They
Hmm.
met Even in, there's a 10-year marriage and they say, "He didn't pay attention to me, and that's where this went. He ignored me for 10 years,
Mhm.
and then
Can resonate.
he met somebody else
Mhm.
because we didn't connect anymore." Okay. Well, did you learn anything here?
Yep.
Or you're so focused on how badly he hurt you
Right.
that the next person that just pays any ounce of attention to you is now your number one person. Well, you know, how about we step back and look at that relationship, your new relationship for a minute,
Mhm.
and maybe you don't put 100% into a new relationship every time, especially if you have kids.
And I love that you brought this back and my ADHD. You're keeping me in line. Okay. I'm really loving the dynamic. That right there is what I started with. I was giving all of my power to him and placing all of my cup, my emotions, my satisfaction in my relationship, making it look good, making it be perceived as good, and shrinking, quite frankly, about what was important to me and, how I wanted to live my life versus how he wanted to live his life. And I finally got to the point to where I'm like, this isn't good for me anymore. But it didn't feel good when it happened. It was very uncomfortable. And all I did was hand it to you. And then you handed it back to me. Right. And I think that's the most beautiful thing that you could have ever done to me is say, Chelsea, just put it all in a little notebook for me and we'll get back to it. Like, it's not that big of a deal. And so, I would ask you, and I think we've already kind of answered this, is like, what's one thing that your clients could do that has nothing to do with you, nothing to do with therapy, that they could do today that would make them start feeling better in this difficult process that they're going through?
I think if they need somebody to talk to just, you don't, therapy's not the most negative
It's
thing
not the most
anymore.
negative thing, but
It
therapy I wanna make sure we understand this too. Therapy is understanding why you are the way that you are. You're going into the past, right?
right, or even when I say that, even just I don't want to say therapist, a counselor, somebody find somebody to, a life coach,
Yeah.
somebody to talk to see yourself more and understand it. And I don't need this. I don't need to be angry at this
Mhm.
person. I can be sad about it. And everybody's, for the most part, everyone who comes across is at some point they're sad about it.
Right.
Even if they're the one initiating the divorce or separating from paternity action or any of these things, there's a there's an ounce of sadness. If you don't like the other person, you still have to be a little sad that your kid isn't going to be as close to that, or the dynamic is changing.
Right, right.
So it's somebody to talk to that's a big one.
Yeah, and therapy does help. Wasn't minimizing that at all, but I think what you were kind of getting to there is what I wanna make sure that we portray today is therapy is understanding why you are the way that you are. Coaching is helping you to take it and get the ball moving,
Right.
okay? Because I did therapy.
Yeah.
I did therapy, and it didn't help. I really it frustrated me because I would sit there and they would go, "Well, why do you think that is? Well, why do you think that is?" And I'm like, "That doesn't do anything for me."
And I think you're right. Then I'm interchanging words, right? Because I say it all the time.
Mhm.
But you need a cheerleader. You need somebody to get behind you, and, I mean, I'm not your cheerleader, but I certainly will advocate all day long and say, "Get your butt in gear.
Yeah.
You need to get your act together," and if you can find somebody to push you there, and especially in your situation where if somebody who's been in a similar situation can say, "I've been there. There is an end to this,
Mhm.
but if you focus on this, you'll get there faster, better,
Yeah.
easier,
What's it
with less
costing you
tears."
to stay in that frame of mind? What's it costing you is the biggest question that I'll ever ask you when I'm coaching you is, "Okay, you're sad. Okay, he's making you mad. What's it costing you?" Every time you send an email out and ask for help from your attorney, what's it
Right.
costing you every time you allow him to pull you out of the day at the park with your kids to respond to a message you don't have to message? What's it costing you? Okay, cool. What could you gain if you did something different? And a cheerleader, yes, I will. I feel like what I'm great at is telling you that you're fully capable. You have the answers within you. You know what you need to do. You just need someone to pull it out of you.
And then kinda tell them where to go
Yes, pull it out of you and go, "Hey,
because 'cause you've
listen,
been there.
I've been there." And it's not I don't wanna coddle your feelings. I'm one of those people, I'm gonna cut you with the truth. I'm gonna call it like it is, and it's probably a lot of what you do on a regular basis too, but it's like, "Okay, and what can we do about it? We can't. What can you do about yourself? How can you make yourself feel better in this situation?" And I'll call it out. Be like,
Right.
"So you're letting him control you right now."
And that would be like we were just talking about before, that would be a lot better in the first divorce because then we don't come back for a second or a third
And you
or
start
a fourth,
yes, or third
you
or
know,
fourth.
because the numbers are, I mean, the numbers are numbers, I
Mhm.
don't mess with them. If there's an approximate 50% divorce rate, right? That percent goes way higher with each additional marriage, you
Unless
know?
you set better standards for yourself and you
Right.
build a life that you love that's worth protecting, and you understand that no matter if there's a partner involved or not, this is a great place to be. And if you're in it, cool, I love that. And I'm glad that you're here. But I'm okay if you're not. And I think that's really important to be in a secure place and understand what toxic habits did I have that perpetuated this, because
Right.
nobody's innocent in divorce. I wasn't the best wife. You know, I had to sit with myself. But I think my goal for any woman who's your client is that when they leave you, I'm sorry, I don't want them to have to come back to you in the
You know what?
future.
I'm not there to make best friends,
Yeah.
No, no offense, I do enjoy you. But no, I tell that to everybody when they first call. I'm like, I'm not looking to build a marble building on your back.
Hmm.
I'd love for you to be able to get in, get it done, get out, but make sure everybody is on the same page. Everybody's protected. We have all of our I's dotted, T's crossed, and you're also able to move forward and
Right.
and not make I I don't wanna say the same mistake because it might not be that person, but don't do this whatever you feel you did wrong the first time, don't do that again. And if it's the other person because of cheating or whatever, look back and say, "Okay, well, yes, if that person was wrong, that person's wrong, but what could I do not to be in the same place I am today?"
Yeah.
And if it's get out when you first learn. Because there's a lot of women who, he did cheat
We're
but
working on it.
I
Right.
love it, we're working on it,
We're
or
working
it's
on it.
okay, he said he'd never do it again.
Uh huh.
Okay.
Right.
Cool. So
I would want anybody out here to know, and if they work with you, they work with me, they learn that other people's behaviors and responses to the stimuli in their environment is a reflection of how calm they are in their spirit and who they are, and how life is always working out for them. So if someone is trying to rage bait you into an argument, it's because they've got a lot of chaos and things going on inside of them. They're trying to give it to you so that it can reflect back to them that they have power. They're okay. They're good in some sense. Um, so I would want to raise your standard and say that you don't have to find yourself in a situation where somebody wants to have power over your emotions anymore. I want you to be in a relationship. I want you to find a healthy lifestyle for yourself where you say, I no longer tolerate people who do that. I no longer find myself in relationships where I am pouring too much and they're not giving enough and I keep justifying their behavior.
if we could get a bunch of clients who came in that mindset in the beginning,
Yes.
that would save a lot of time and a lot of money,
Yes.
a lot of frustration in the end. That would be amazing.
So I love the conversation that we had today. I feel like it makes a lot of sense for anybody who's navigating a difficult change, whether it's divorce, whether it's loss, someone passed away. I feel like it's not just a legal perspective, but if you're in a season of your life where you're transitioning from the old version of you and questioning and asking yourself, what does the new version of me deserve from me? What does the new version of me do on a day to day basis? What do they tolerate? What do they like? What kind of music do they like? What do they like to do for fun? What are their values? I would ask that they work with both of us at the same time. They come, and even if it's just following me on social media, and just a plug here. I understand that when you are in a sad space and you have been minimizing your emotions for a very long time, and you're just trying to keep everybody happy, a lot of times you feel very empty. You put on a front, you try to make everybody else, you're juggling all of these balls, but at some point your cup's going to be empty. And you numb out. You scroll TikTok, you're watching all of these videos of people doing things that you wish you could do. And you're like, I wish I could just do that. Well, I do that. I renovate my house. I get up and I go to the gym. I talk about body positivity, mental health, whatever it is, but I'm giving you the visual that would keep you in the loop of scrolling. And hopefully it transitions you into a place of calling yourself to a higher version of yourself. If you need one-on-one solutions, I'm here. Seasonsofhergrowth.com is kind of what I'm building as a transitional container for women or men. I've had a lot of men reach out to me. It's called Seasons of Her, which is kind of crazy, but men
That's
have
fine.
reached out. I love it.
Men
Um,
call us too. We're good with it.
yeah.
I like them both.
Um,
We're happy to help both sides.
but for any woman, any man listening and who recognized herself in anything that we've mentioned today, I would just ask that, number one, they start setting higher standards for what they deserve, because you do. You deserve better than what you've been putting up with. And if you're willing to do the work and step into the best version of yourself, I would love to help you with that transition. And if doing that puts you in a position where you need Stacy, she's the best person to help you navigate that
And
sort
we're
of
happy to
fallout.
do it. But I mean, I think that's why this works so well. I think people can listen to you, and then as they're coming through, because we provide legal advice, not life coaching.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I say it, but
You were a little bit of my life coach. You did just enough, to give me
I'll
where I
tell you
am.
where you should be. But
Yeah.
it's a lot easier if we have clients coming in and seeing that at the end. But we'll provide all the advice down the road so that you don't do it twice.
That's the goal. We don't want to do it twice. And if we do it twice, there's no such thing as a mistake. It's a lesson or it's a blessing, right? How can I learn from the situation is the best thing. But I thank you for, coming here and doing this with me today. And where can they find you? What's your website?
386lawfirm.com, and we're local, and we're happy to talk to everybody. Or, well, as long as there's no conflict, I suppose.
As long as there's no conflict. Hey, you better ask for your consultation first, because on social media, it's almost like, dang, they got her before I could, So I look forward to doing this more
Me
often.
too.
Yeah, I love it.
Thanks.
Thank you.